Yeah, I mean, the reality is, I'm a systems guy, right? Mm-hmm. So the reality is, if you remember the old elephant, you have the elephant of different people touching parts. Mm-hmm. So the problem with that model is that you can create your own narratives, right? So like I said, if you look at the tusk of the, remember it's the story of Buddha who brings the elephant, and he asks 6 blind men what they see. The guy who touches a tusk says he sees a spear, the guy who touches a tail says he sees a brush, etc. The problem is that this is a way that you bamboozle the public. When you don't share the whole, but you take little parts and then you rewrite whole narratives on it. System science is a way to resolve that, where you start figuring out how you can interconnect the parts and the truth emerges from that. And my view is that systems theory, systems science should be taught at the grade school. Because what we're teaching people is little pieces. And when you teach people that way, it makes them what's called reductionist. You never see the whole, you see the components, and you can essentially create a dumb electorate that can be bamboozled.
Is there any other research that people are doing and like following up on this to show the actual like health side effects to this?
Oh yeah. So let me show you. It's a great question. After we published our stuff, we published another paper more recently, end of last year. What I can show you, I'll try to find it, but what we published was we basically showed that we published a 5th paper where we actually looked at the GMO and the non-GMO version, and we found research in Leeds in London that was done, in the UK, where people had actually grown the soy plant in a greenhouse. And they got the exact same results, 250% difference in glutathione. And we published that recently. My point is this, right? Why is it that very few researchers are even exposing Monsanto? And meanwhile, tons of public funding is going to pay these scientists. And no one's holding them accountable. That's really the question. And the narrative has been built up. We need these foods to feed the world's population, you know? Yep.
Do you think Bill Weld's going to get into the Senate race?
Bill Weld?
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't matter. He's just part of the whole nonsense.
Yeah.
Bill Weld, Old Man Kingston, you know, all these dirty guys, Beth Lindstrom, lottery person. None of these people have...
And you got 2 independent candidates. You got John Devine and Joshua Ford, who's the deputy sheriff of Middlesex County.
Yeah. I don't know what these guys stand for. All I know is I don't need to be doing this. And I'm doing it because I think we're at a 21st century. If you look at the situation right now in Massachusetts, for every 17 skilled job openings, we only have 1 person skilled for that. We're supposed to be, I mean, you guys have beautiful buildings here. How many people are getting your jobs after they leave? Are they prepared for the 21st century? That's really the question. So who's really, Miles said he paid $30K. Is that how much you guys are paying for tuition?
It's a lot.
Go for out of state.
Out of state's 30K, and in state's like 10K.
Yeah, so you're leaving with about 50K loans by the time you're done.
I'm trying not to do loans.
Yeah, but if it's work study, one of the things I think we should get rid of all these student loans. Everyone should do work study and co-ops, and because you learn a lot more from that. You don't learn a lot in these classrooms, frankly.
I wish I could do work study, but then I don't qualify because I'm not living a poor enough family to qualify.
Right.
What do you think about getting rid of all financial aid completely? Because if you get rid of all financial aid completely, your entire tuition just skyrockets down because they. I think me and another person had a conversation about this. The only reason why tuition is so high is because the universities know that they're going to get the money from the government. If they stop the financial aid,
you hit it right on the head.
Yeah. If you stop the financial aid, you could literally go and pay for a class for $100.
Yeah.
$100
So what you're pointing out, there's a racket right now between the universities and the quote-unquote Sally Mae, right? So they call it a student loan. Who has a student loan here? Did you ever see the money? It never went into your bank account. That would mean it's your loan. It literally goes from the government right to the university. So year over year over year, the universities can keep cranking up tuition because once they accept you, your family's so happy you got accepted, the money literally goes from the government to the institution. There's no incentive here for them to reduce tuition.
And you can't declare bankruptcy.
And you can't declare bankruptcy by the way the laws are set up. So I think we should completely eliminate student loans, because and the other thing is community colleges should also be allowed to give four-year degrees, because that'll create a competitive environment. So they want to limit the number of universities, they want you to get into student loans, so you leave, into a debt situation. The entire corporate model is to make you a consumer of stuff and have you in debt. That's the model. And they started at a very, very young age. But if you increase vo-tech schools, if you increase the ability for community colleges to issue four-year degrees, now you have competition.
Charters.
And you eliminate student loans. Now these guys can't. It's going to have to be market-based. Yep.
I went to a technical high school, so I got a computer tech education as long with the.
Yeah, you'll be able to get a job then.
Yeah, I'm doing IT here, so I'm hoping to get the job in the future.
Right.
Yeah, I guess since this is the question and answer part, if you get elected, will you be like promoting like technical education and that kind of stuff for high school?
Yeah, like charter schools as well.
Yeah, look, I think it's, if you don't know technical stuff in the 21st century, I love Shakespeare, I love writing, but, we're gonna be completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Because and forget even the competitive issue, just to be able to survive in the modern world, you're gonna have a huge competitive disadvantage. So, and I think the way that many of these courses, there needs to be a revamping. Teachers need to be given more power. Teachers are actually pretty smart. What's happened is the teachers' unions have disempowered them. Teachers should be able to say, okay, he's a smart kid, I'll give him, the advanced curriculum, I can teach him this. They should be able to have, because they're the ones delivering the knowledge, they're the feet on the street. The same things occurred in medicine. They've removed all the power from the doctor. So doctors just have to follow a protocol that's dictated by insurance company. And the doctor may see you, a friend of ours we was just speaking to, she's an anesthesiologist, a spine surgeon, she goes, I've been doing this for years, but the protocol says I gotta give you 3 shots of pain meds. When I know you don't need it, but I'm supposed to do that. So you have people in little ivory towers dictating to the practitioners what they should do. That's Obamacare, right? And so what's ironic is Warren talks about that she wants to help, right? The small guy, everything she's doing is the corporatization of medicine, the corporatization of banking, the corporatization of education. It's actually creating big versus believing in the people on the ground.
Do you think Elizabeth Warren actually doesn't know the implications of her policies? Or do you think she actually believes in them, that she's actually doing
No, I think she's just she's just a fake.
Yeah.
Whatever she can to do to get elected. I'm sure she eats
That's how
organic
she
food.
works.
I see her at Henrietta's eating organic food, okay? So this is the same thing with all of these people. For them and their families, I'm sure Hillary Clinton doesn't feed her, her grandchildren, Monsanto pesticides, right? And I'm sure they're very aware of what they're putting in their mouth. Right, for the rest of us, they create this narrative because they get funded by Monsanto. I just finished a movie with Pierce Brosnan, who used to be 007. He just produced a movie called Poisoning Paradise's Wives, an investigative report. I'm one of the main scientists in it, talking about what occurred in the island of Kauai, which was used as a test bed. So, Warren's part of this. She's a fake fighter. And it's unfortunate that these PACs, support people like this.
Yeah. Well, one question's on going back.
And they have a researcher here who's probably trying to figure out what I'm saying, right? And trying to figure out how to refute it. And it's unfortunate they're wasting they're going to use intelligence like that to figure out, let's see how we can manipulate Shiva's words.
Yeah.
Let's see how we can manipulate the science to make her look good. And that's where most of intellectual knowledge is being spent.
Yeah.
People are spending a lot of, they're creating dweebs who basically go and manipulate truth full time. That's what they do. Full-time job, manipulate truth. Character assassinate people, attack people, and that's what we've created. And so my view is all of these career politicians need to go. It was never part of the model. We shouldn't be asking people's political resumes. We should be asking, what have you actually done to create a job? Can you solve a differential equation? Do you know what that means? Seriously, do any of these guys know what dynamics are? Do they know what AI means? Do they know how to build a business? Can they read a profit and loss statement? Can they read a balance sheet? Probably none of these guys know what the hell they're reading. So they have multiple layers of a bunch of other dweebs who tell them what to do. It's complete nonsense, guys. Complete nonsense.
Well, that's how like our monetary system is run out by the Federal Reserve. It's complete nonsense as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying that Einstein said something which I thought was telling. He said the more you remove people from the actual work that they do, you create layers and layers and layers and layers. I mean, in my case, you know, I know how to still write code. I know how to design software. I know what all the stuff I'm talking about. I don't need consultants. All these people have to hire guys like him over there to tell them what to think. They have to hire researchers to write their stupid reports. Seriously, it's complete insanity. And they're taking money, I'm talking about both parties. They take money from poor people, give them to PACs, and then the PACs, you know, are paying themselves, people like him money, others money. It's a racket.
I think the best.
Everyone should be angry at this. If people really knew what was going on, we'd have a revolution in this country.
Yeah.
I think the best thing is when you have people that are trying to spy on you and you are saying the right things all the time, like you always do. And because that just shows how the opposition is so afraid of you. And like, the thing is, I gotta say, like, do you really expect someone at like a Beth Lindstrom or John Kingston event? No, because they're looking to be in the system. They're looking to, like, you know how long I've been involved. They're looking to be a system, looking to be part of the system. They're looking to just be a name. They're not looking to defeat Elizabeth Warren. They're looking to just be a name and be part of the system. There's people like you and Jeff Deal who actually have a vested interest in.
I don't think Jeff Deal has a vested interest. He made a fake.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're saying.
I'm saying, like, Jeff Deal he's like establishment number 2, basically.
He's a not so obvious establishment.
Yeah.
Okay? One of the things that you got to be aware of, there's a dynamic that occurs in politics. The obvious establishment, Hillary Clinton, the change agents like myself, Trump, and then the not so obvious fake fighters like Jeff Deal,
Yeah.
who basically needs to bring Trump voters to Charlie Baker. Okay,
Okay.
and those people are the more insidious ones. Elizabeth Warren and Jeff Deal are very similar. They're the not so obvious establishment. And they're the ones who need to be completely skinned and exposed for what they are. They need to be scalped. Okay, because they're the ones who manipulate truth. Jeff Deal did a fake picture of him shaking Donald Trump's hand. There's 3 hands in the picture. He photoshopped. The guy can't even Photoshop well.
You're right.
I mean, these people are really, you know, I don't have enough nice words to say for, you know, and I think the Trump victory was something magnificent. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, the issue is it shows that people are tired of this nonsense, that they want real change. And now, after that, you'll see the not so obvious establishment, the fake Trumpers coming.
Yeah.
You know, that's what's going on. You know, but the thing is, you guys need to be, part of my speaking here is to let you guys know, you guys should get angry about this. It's not a bad thing. Righteous anger is a good thing.
Well, you were talking about the teachers union. They do a really good job of brainwashing all the students here. It's ridiculous. Like,
Oh, yeah.
all the students think that, like, the teachers unions are there to help them, but they're not. It's the complete opposite.
Yeah. When in 1978, I had a teacher who gave me the standard math curriculum. This was before the Department of Education screwed up everything. And he saw me wanting to study, and he gave me a whole nother curriculum. So that's why I was able to finish calculus by the 9th grade. And people who, had issues, he helped them. So teachers weren't just following like a robot. If that's the case, you don't need a teacher, just, put it on the iPhone.
Yeah, a lot of these classes, these teachers don't try.
Yeah.
They don't care about their job.
I can see that. So I'm saying it really comes down to us. It is supposed to be the government of the people. It's up to us. These people have built auras as though they're somebody, but they're frankly should be really looked at from the original thing. What have they actually contributed?
One last question, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you think is the solution? Like, do you think like more like cooperative farming? Do you think that would be?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So there are solutions.
One last question.
Yeah.
What are like the real like health side effects of GMOs? Say if you took two people, one person that was just taking
Yeah.
GMOs the rest of his life, and someone that wasn't, would you actually see like a big difference?
Yeah, so it's a great question. See, when you're looking at these large studies like this, it's hard to do it in a test tube, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about giving food. It's like saying, I feed a bunch of people McDonald's and another bunch of people Burger King, or what's the difference? Well, you have to do it over long periods of time. You follow what I'm saying? That's why mathematical modeling is so powerful. Because there's no way to kill enough animals to figure this out, or do enough test tube testing, or do enough clinical trials. We don't build airplanes by just randomly creating all different designs. It's done on the computer, right? That's modern 21st century science. That's what cytosol is. That's what email was, right, at that time. And that's why the brainless people in Washington don't understand any of this. And so you have to use technology. So the realities to your question is that the reason I shared that with you, we went down to the fundamentals of the C1 metabolic pathway. No one can argue with us on that. There's no like A plus B, sodium plus chloride gives sodium chloride, right? There's no argument. So all of those chemical equations are inarguable. They're coming from actual literature, and we connected them together at the molecular systems level. So you can't do this unless you have long periods of times, and these guys know that. So that's why cytosol is such a threat to them, because it's the same thing that we used how to understand dynamics of flight. That's what we're doing here. So let's get back to your question around so more and more papers are coming out, like with glyphosate, which is a pesticide. They found it in women's tampons, okay, because they use it for cotton. They've found ultra low levels, it's a Nature paper, causes fatty liver disease in animals. Okay, but you can extrapolate that in some ways to larger mammals. So you have, the issue for me is there is no safety assessment standards, because the way substantial equivalence is done is it's about the same and you just sort of guess it. There's no science to it. So why are we allowing that? That's really the fundamental issue. Everything in this room, I don't know if you know, there's standards, like for the light bulb, for computers, for ergonomic things. I mean, you can't really put anything out there unless they're called standards organizations. There's no safety assessment standards for GMOs. The eyeglasses you wear, right? There's ophthalmologist associations, they have to do standardization, they have to make sure it doesn't hurt your eyes, Elizabeth Warren's trying to get over-the-counter hearing aids. Sounds good, but she's in collusion with a company called Doppler Labs, which wasn't making any money, which got 70 million VC funded, and she's writing articles in the New England Journal of Medicine saying how great over-the-counter hearing aids are. Complete fraud.
But do you think that the solution is to have government do the regulation, or to have consumer watchdog organizations in the private sector?
Look, what's happened is the government is already, so let's talk about this, right? This is a very interesting question you bring up, because the assumption is that we have market forces, okay? The reality is Monsanto is a monopoly in glyphosate, right? So people talk about capitalism as though we're living in this age of where free capitalism reigns. It doesn't. It's all a racket. We have the corporatization of capitalism. There is no free capitalism. This is the problem I have sometimes with the theoretical libertarians. They're talking as though that we have, free capitalism, and then we don't want regulation. The reality is that we actually have, we're not even, forget that. We're like the train has gotten by. 4 major telcos control everything you hear, listen, and watch. Telecommunications companies. Google and Facebook are watching all your emails. So what are we talking about? Those guys have already subverted the whole process. We've destroyed the Postal Service, which gave us the opportunity to send you a letter, and if anyone intervened, it was a 20-year sentence in prison. Google and Facebook own our emails, right? So, and this has occurred because of the fact that career politicians who are not technologists, who are not scientists, let this all happen because they got paid during PAC money, whatever you want to go look at. They don't care about the implications of what it means. We talk about the Second Amendment, right? Which is important. But no one talks about the fact, the freedom of communication, which has been completely subverted when email volume overtook postal mail volume in 1997. When you signed up for your free email, go read the privacy. They own your email. So the haves will have their private email servers, and the have-nots will be using quote-unquote free email. That's why, to me, there's a book I wrote called The Future of Email. The whole issue with Hillary Clinton is that it's showing that the people in power will start having their private email servers. So they can have deniability on emails, they can protect their emails, and the rest of us will be using, unsecure servers. Yep.
What do you think about when elites from all over the world actually cooperate to put more environmental regulations and do such things as in the UN, put different agendas on papers, how to basically limit industrialization in form of understanding in the US? Do you think it's a problem or not?
What are you talking about? Are you talking about climate change, like regulations?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a great video if you have a chance on, if you go on YouTube, look at Paris Accords, on the Paris Accords related to climate change, and I completely expose it. This is what it's interesting about my candidacy. On the one hand, I can be against Monsanto and the fact that GMOs don't have no safety assessment standards, but I can also expose the Paris Accords. They have nothing to do whatsoever with helping alleviate pollution, taking the plastics out of the ocean, or helping landfills. What they have to do is making sure Al Gore and his compatriots get very wealthy. If you really look, and it's a video, if you look up Shiva Ayyadurai Paris Accords, I do a little sketch and I walk you through the whole thing. But the reality is that, to keep it very simply, if you take China by way of example, today China pollutes, you know how much carbon tons? Tons of carbon, anyone know?
160 million?
11 billion. Today, 11 billion tons of carbon, okay? Now, according to the Paris Accords, how much tons of carbon do you think China will do in 2030? Right, because they're supposed to help regulate them, right? What will happen in 2030?
Same.
No, 22 billion. They're allowed to pollute further another 11 billion, and after 2030, a carbon tax will kick in. Meanwhile, the carbon credit is actually an equity that they're trading on the public market. So after 2030, it's going to skyrocket the value of these credits, and that's when all these guys will cash in. The green fund that they created was essentially a fund that we were going to use to pay off the influencers in these countries to be part of the Paris Accords. It was payoff money. Trump figured this out. And by the way, we can get into a debate on climate change now, but I can tell you this one thing. The guy who came up with this climate change model originally set the average temperature of the Earth between 1950 to 1980 as, guess what temperature it was? 15 degrees. Well, 1997 comes, and they're predicting climate change, and guess what the temperature was in 1997? It was 14.7. It actually went down. So in a footnote, this is in the New York Times, in an email, overnight he says, oh, the new 14 is the new 15. Basically, they moved the goalpost. They said the new average temperature is 14 degrees. It was done in an email. So what I'm trying to say is that if you really want to solve pollution, we need innovation, not regulation. If we want to get rid of the plastics, it's going to be innovation. There's amazing technologies entrepreneurs have created, but the crony capitalists will never let this stuff get out. So you have technologies at work. We have amazing permaculture is an amazing model that's existed for years to do soil replenishment. People have shown you can generate anywhere between 5 to 8 times more yield than pesticide and herbicide-ridden crops. So we already have technologies, guys. It's basically these guys who are criminals, who we give so much unfortunate, homage to, from Elizabeth Warren on down.
I feel like it's going to be really hard to wake people up.
What's that?
I feel like it's going to be really hard.
No, it's already happened.
Yeah.
Trump's winning the reason Trump's winning is so powerful is because the elites in the West Coast, Hollywood elites, and the East Coast, right where we are, a lot at UMass Boston right here, they never thought that this guy was going to win. But they didn't understand that, the poor whites in this country are also a majority, by the way, who are being screwed over. that they just try to brand them as rednecks. And their voices were never being heard. They had legitimate concerns. And when Trump won, these guys weren't so upset that Trump won. They were more upset that they lost control. Remember what I said in the beginning? Academics don't care about, frankly, money that much, they care about control. They want to be the head of the department who writes the paper that everyone reads. They want to be the consultant who's called in and everyone quietly listens.